that has recently been on my mind a lot. It's something that I have been reading and looking into for different reasons. And so I thought this will be very nice to talk about, especially because it's actually one of our most special and most central, one of our most important narratives, kathas, stories in our tradition. Because Raghunatha Das Goswami is one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and Raghunatha Das Goswami exemplified, personified a certain quality of a devotee that Lord Chaitanya greatly appreciated. So we recently just had Gaur Purnima, and so this is also sort of following Lord Chaitanya's appearance, appreciating or remembering or glorifying his devotees. So I hope you all enjoy this. And initially, there's some text on these slides, but don't feel obliged to read everything. I will be speaking also. And so I will just get started here. Before starting, just very quickly, I'd like to say the prayers. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So before we discuss Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's always nice to recite one prayer, and you can repeat after me. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this verse here, the first one which I'm showing, this is like, you could say, the Paribhashya Sutra, the most essential verse of this entire chapter. It, you could say, summarizes, it clarifies the central message that this chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita wants to tell us, wants to give us. And Raghunatha Das Goswami's life exemplifies this principle in addition to other very important principles, as we will see. The Lord teaches the world through his devotees. And so through the life of Raghunatha Das Goswami, we learn so many lessons. And this is the central lesson that we learn from his life. Mahaprabhura Bhakta Ganera Vairagya Pradhana Yaha Dekhi Prita Hana Gaura Bhagavan. Translation: renunciation is the basic principle sustaining the lives of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees. Seeing this renunciation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is extremely satisfied. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anyone, whether an ordinary materialistic person or a pure devotee, can understand the behavior of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees if he studies it minutely. One will thus find that the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are not at all attached to any kind of material enjoyment. They have completely given up sense enjoyment to engage fully in the service of Lord Shri Krishna and dedicate their lives and souls to serving Krishna without material desires. Because their devotional service is free from material desires, it is unimpeded by material circumstances. Although ordinary men have great difficulty understanding this attitude of the devotees, it is greatly appreciated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is a very powerful verse and very powerful purport. And some of the words in this purport, I just want to bring our attention to them. And it's this sentence here. They have completely given up sense enjoyment to engage fully in the service of Lord Shri Krishna and dedicate their lives and souls to serving Krishna without material desires. Because their devotional service is free from material desires, it is unimpeded by material circumstances. And so two very important principles that Srila Prabhupada here is mentioning is that the devotees of the Lord, a very genuine devotee of the Lord, dedicates their life and soul to serving Krishna. So they dedicate their entire life and soul. Love for Krishna is not a matter of intellectual curiosity or a matter of a weekend excursion, but it's their life and soul to serve Krishna, and without material desires. The second point here is that it is without material desires. So this is something actually that sounds easy. It sounds easy to apply. It's something very simple. But Prabhupada then defines what it means to serve Krishna with our life and soul without material desires. What it means is that if we truly don't have material desires, then our devotional service is unimpeded by material circumstances. So Prabhupada says this, because their devotional service is free from material desires, it is unimpeded by material circumstances. So Prabhupada said, or maybe one of his disciples said, I actually should not say Prabhupada said, because I don't clearly remember, but there are devotees who are fair weather devotees. They're devotees who are devotees when the weather is good. When things are good, then they're devotees of the Lord. But when the material circumstances change, there's some problem, or they feel insulted, or they feel betrayed, or there's some conflict, or there's some material difficulty, then the devotional service decreases. But a devotee of the Lord, because they're free from material desires, their service is unimpeded by material circumstances. Of course, the nature of a devotee's service may change based upon the circumstance, and it should change. But it often does change. But the devotional service itself, the desire to serve the Lord and the activity of devotional service does not change based upon any material circumstance. So this is something that Prabhupada here makes a very clear point. And we will see how this is exhibited through the life of Raghunatha Das Goswami. Just on this point that the devotees of the Lord dedicate their lives and souls to serving Krishna, I was just hearing a very nice class. And in that class, the devotee was saying that how if you look at the very successful persons in this world, very famous, very, those people who are successful, like Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, like super successful people. The reason why they're so successful in what they did is that they were not afraid to give their life for that work. In other words, they were not afraid of dying in the process of executing or fulfilling that service, that activity. That service, be it to humanity, be it to their countrymen. But a person can truly do something wonderful when they have no fear in you could say, engaging their life in that work. So in the same way, this is the stage of devotion to the Lord, when one's entire life is in the service of the Lord, one is only one is willing to serve the Lord even at the risk of one's life. And that is, we see the qualities of the great souls. So now in the case of Raghunatha Das Goswami, which we will see, we take inspiration from his life, because It's not possible to imitate these great souls. Spiritual life does not manifest overnight, but we can take inspiration from their life so that we can dedicate our life to the service of the Lord. So Raghunatha Das Goswami's life story, it begins at the home of a very wealthy business person. His parents were super wealthy. And during his family life, Raghunatha Das Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Shantipur. And when he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there, he was so overcome by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence, his beauty, that he immediately wanted to give up his worldly activities and join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu full time. He told Lord Chaitanya that I have no attraction now for this material world. I simply want to become a renunciate, and I want to travel with you. I want to stay with you always. But Lord Chaitanya does not allow him to join him. Instead, he tells Raghunatha Das Goswami that you go back home. Now you think, oh, this story was about renunciation. We just read this verse. And Lord Chaitanya does not let him renounce. He says, go back home and fulfill your duties. And receiving Lord Chaitanya's instructions, Raghunatha Das Goswami returned home and played exactly like a pounds and shilling man. This is Prabhupada's translation. Pounds and shillings man means just like an ordinary business person, but a very expert businessman. But Raghunatha Das Goswami was inwardly completely renounced, even in family life, but he did not express his renunciation externally. So his father and mother, Raghunatha Das Goswami was the only son, only child of his father and mother. So naturally, they were very satisfied by this because they didn't want him to become a renunciate. And Raghunatha Das Goswami, in this way, fulfilled his duties and pleased his parents, but all the while being very renounced internally. And why did he take up this mood? It's because this was the same instruction that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. When Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, when they meet the Lord, they also tell the Lord, I want to give up everything and I want to meet you. There's a very beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita which describes this. And in response, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells them, he tells Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, Paravyasan nini nari vyagrapi griha karmasu tadeva svadayatyantar navasanga rasayanam. If a woman is attached to a man other than her husband, she will appear very busy in carrying out her household affairs. But within her heart, she is always relishing feelings of association with her paramour. So Lord Chaitanya gives a very apt metaphor here. And again, it's a metaphor. This is abominable in material life, to have extramarital affairs. But as a metaphor, it's a very fitting metaphor. He tells Rupa and Sanatana Goswami that when a woman loves another man other than her husband, in order for that relationship to continue, externally she'll be even more perfect in her day-to-day family dealings. But in her heart, she's always thinking of her lover. And she does her family duties so that she can think of her lover often. In the same way, he tells Raghunatha Das Goswami and Rupa and Sanatana Goswami that Krishna is your true love. So think of him always. But externally, you still have to carry out your duties. And internally, you can relish this bhakti and this devotion to the Lord. Now the question is, why does he tell him this? Why not, if a devotee is meant to be attached to Krishna, if that's the goal, then why is Lord Chaitanya taking these devotees on, you could say, a circus, on a ring around and having them go through this method? And the reason is because renunciation is not artificial, right? True renunciation is not artificial. It's very easy to feign renunciation. We all do that. We all say that, oh, actually, I'm not attached to my family. I'm not attached to anything. I just have all these things, of course, but I'm not attached to them. But we are. This is why we have them, generally speaking. But knowing that, we have to go through, so to say, we have to work through those attachments by accepting them, or you could say maintaining what we have, but then gradually becoming more and more renounced within our heart. And this is initially why Raghunatha Das Goswami was not ready to join Lord Chaitanya, at least externally speaking. Of course, he was Rati Manjari, he's an eternal associate of the Lord. But at that time, he was not fully ready. Lord Chaitanya was telling him, become prepared. This is a lifetime in preparation, right? Prabhupada, he says that our life is a lifetime in preparation. So renunciation is something that we have to prepare for. And we discussed this in our Gita classes as well, that how renunciation is not the means of purification. Renunciation is not the means of purification, rather renunciation is the result of purification. So if we try to artificially renounce, we might come crawling back if we are not fully purified in our heart. But if we're fully purified, then we can renounce. So renunciation is a result of purification. So just to give you an estimation of what Raghunatha Das Goswami's riches were, he was the son of fabulously rich landlords who they actually owned an entire town. I'm not sure if it was the entire village of Krishnapur, but it was an entire area, they were owners of an entire town, like an entire subdivision, you could say. His families were millionaires in those days. Hussain Shah, the emperor of Bengal, leased the entire Saptagram district to Raghunath Das's father and brother for an annual rent of 12 lakh rupees. And from their business, Raghunath Das Goswami, his father and uncle, Govardhan and Hiranya, collected 2 million coins, of which they gave 1.2 million as tax to the government. So their annual income was 800,000 coins. Now you think, well, what coins were these? Well, with those coins, with one coin, a person could purchase 600 kgs of rice. So today with $1, how many pounds of rice can you purchase? Maybe, maybe half a pound if you're getting really low quality rice. So with that point in time, with one coin, you could get 600 kgs of rice, and their annual salary was 800,000 coins. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Raghunath Das Goswami's opulence was like that of Indra, and his wife was as beautiful as Indra's wife Sachi. They also arranged a very beautiful marriage for him, and his wife was angelic, very, very beautiful. So he had everything that a person could desire in this world, everything. Yet, and this shows that how spiritual life, spiritual ecstasy supersedes any level of material pleasure. Raghunath Das Goswami was always trying to run away from home, but his father would always drag him back. And just to restrict his movement, his father had 10 men accompany Raghunath Das Goswami wherever he went. So wherever he went, there's always 10 people with him, because Raghunath Das Goswami's father did not want him to leave home. And Raghunath Das was always trying to go to who? To Lord Chaitanya. Imagine the renunciation of Raghunath Das Goswami. Imagine the greatness of the beauty of the Lord, of the beauty of Lord Chaitanya. Imagine how wonderful Krishna is and how beautiful devotional service to the Lord and spiritual ecstasy and happiness is that even if one has all the wealth in the world, one that does not compare to spiritual pleasure, spiritual happiness. So he was always trying to bring Raghunatha Das Goswami back, and this became just about a daily affair, where Raghunatha Das Goswami would run away and his father would bring him back. E mate bare bare palaya dhariyane tobe tanra mata kahe tanra pita sane. This became almost a daily affair. Raghunatha would run away from home and his father would again bring him back. Then Raghunatha Das's mother spoke to his father as follows. So Raghunatha Das Goswami's mood of attraction to Lord Chaitanya was just like the mood of the gopis for Krishna. When Krishna would play his flute, then the gopis, they would be, stuck in their homes. They would be cooking, cleaning, taking care of their children, but they would drop everything. And although they were inhibited by their husbands, brothers, fathers, they would run towards Krishna. And that is the stage of pure devotion, right? When we have every reason not to worship Krishna, we have every reason not to chant, but yet we are worshiping Krishna, we are chanting Krishna's holy names, and we are loving Krishna. That is the stage of what Queen Kunti says, Gange Vaugham Udanmati. She prays to the Lord. Queen Kunti prays that let my attraction to you be like the attraction of the water of the river to the sea. When the river rushes towards the sea, the water is so strong. The current is so strong that nothing in the world can stop it. If you go up in the Himalayas at the source of the Ganges in Gangotri, then the Ganges rushes down so fiercely that nothing in the world can stop it. It's that eager to go towards the ocean. So in the same way, Queen Kunti prays to the Lord. She says that let my attraction to you be like that. That I don't have to force myself to think of you. I don't have to really focus on my chanting, but that my mind runs towards you. Everything else is there, but it cannot think of anything else other than yourself. And that is pure devotion. Right? That is the stage that we all aspire for. Many people, they say that, when you speak to them, even devotees, that, I don't have time. I don't have time. Therefore, I cannot chant. I don't have time. Therefore, I cannot read. I say this myself. I'm speaking here for myself, that I feel I don't have time. Therefore, I cannot read Chaitanya Charitamrita. But that is because of a lack of spiritual advancement. It's not that we don't have time, we don't have spiritual advancement. That is the problem. The time is never the problem. We all have the same amount of time. But due to a lack of attraction for Krishna, we don't go towards Krishna. All right? Prabodhananda Saraswati, in his book Vrindavan Mahimamrita, very wonderful book, he says that person who says that I will go to Vrindavan tomorrow, not today, but tomorrow, Prabodhananda Saraswati says, that person will never attain Vrindavan Dham. Why? Why is that? I mean, what's wrong with making a plan? Because if we say that I'll go tomorrow and not today, we have not reached the eagerness. We have not attained the eagerness to reach the Lord. Because still we can wait a day. And this may seem awkward. It may seem, well, how is this true? But imagine if today Gopal Govinda Prabhu or Ramachandra Prabhu, they told us that at ISKCON Bergen, they are giving $1 million they're passing out $1 million to someone who comes. Then will any one of us on the call say, oh, no, I'll go tomorrow. I won't go today. I'll go tomorrow, right? I mean, I have so many things to do. I have to take care of my children, and I'll go tomorrow, not today. Will any of us say that? No, we won't say that. Because we know if I go tomorrow, someone might get it today. Or maybe that offer won't be there tomorrow. Maybe something came of them today. Maybe they took a bit too many gulab jamuns and they got intoxicated. And so now they're saying $3 million. No, we will say, I'm going to go today. I'm going to go right now. Because why? Because we understand the value of it. We understand how valuable $1 million is. Therefore, we will not wait until tomorrow to go. In the same way, if we actually understand the value of how wonderful Krishna is, how wonderful spiritual life is, we won't be able to wait until tomorrow. The reason we're able to wait is because we don't actually understand the value. And Raghunatha Das Goswami and the Gopis of Vrindavan, they fully understood the value, the beauty, the greatness of the Lord, and therefore they were able to have this intensity to reach the Lord. And again, as a caveat, I would like to say that, of course, we cannot imitate this, because if we don't have that attraction, if we artificially renounce everything and leave home or go to Krishna, then we may displease Lord Chaitanya. Right? Lord Chaitanya's initial instruction to Raghunatha Das Goswami was, you go home, because he knew that he could go home. He was not on that stage. But then as love and separation, right, Viraha Bhakti, as Raghunatha Das Goswami's devotion intensified and became more and more, his attraction increased towards the Lord, then he could not wait a single day. So then finally, very exasperated, Raghunatha Das Goswami's mother says these words to his father. Putra batula haila ihaya rakha bandiya tanra pita kahe tare nirvana haya. Our son has become mad, she said. Just keep him by binding him with ropes. His father, being very unhappy, replied to her as follows. So she said, this boy keeps on running away. So how about we just tie him up with ropes? It'll make life easier. To this, the father replied, Indra sama aishwarya sriyapsara sama isava bandite nari lekaya ramana. Raghunatha Das, our son, has opulences like Indra, the heavenly king, and his wife is as beautiful as an angel. Yet all this could not tie down his mind. So the father replies very frankly that he has stronger ropes that he's already bound with, that can already bind him. Opulences like Indra, a wife more beautiful than an angel. Yet all this could not tie him down. Dadira bandhane tanre rakhiva ke mate janma data pitta nare prarabdha khandaite. How then could we keep this boy home by binding him with ropes? It is not possible, even for one's father, to nullify the reactions of one's past activities. So Prabhupada, in the purport to this, writes, kind of paraphrases, that the father tells the mother, you think that these thin ropes are going to bind my son when the ropes of the greatest material wealth has not bound him? No one can change a person's destiny. No one can change a person's heart once it is fixed upon the Lord. Right? It's a very great lesson here, that in either condition, in either direction, so to say, The parents, they can help the child, and they should help the child as much as possible in their spiritual development. But ultimately, everyone has to row their own boat. Everyone has to fly their own plane. Ultimately, our spiritual life is our own responsibility. Ultimately, it's our own responsibility. The devotees are there to help us. The devotees are there to guide us. Our family members are there to help us. But all these great souls, you'll see, their spiritual life was ultimately a product of their own internal determination to be a devotee of the Lord. We cannot depend on others' determination. We cannot use that as our crutch. Ultimately, if we want to advance, if anyone will advance or not advance, it will not be because of their father or mother or because of their friend or relative. It will be because of their own heart, our own determination. So Prabhupada said this very often. He said, everyone ultimately has to fly their own plane. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has fully bestowed his mercy on him. Who can keep home such a madman of Chaitanya Chandra? Right? So he says, who can do this? And they also are devotees. We have to remember that Raghunatha Das Goswami's parents were so wealthy, and they were also great devotees of the Lord. They were funding all of the activities of Lord Chaitanya's movement at that time. So they were actually also very dear to the devotees. Imagine if today, Bill Gates, or now he's a poor man compared to these bigger billionaires, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Imagine if one of them became a devotee. Oh, something happened. So imagine if one of them became a devotee of the Lord. I mean, there would be no financial problem for the whole ISKCON movement. Right? Every center could, they'd just tell us, give us a blank check. And so use it as you need for the temple, right? I think every temple would have no problem. They have like $100, $200 billion. Even a $2 billion would fund all the movement's expenses. Well, it was like that with Govardhan and the father and uncle of Raghunatha Das Goswami. During their times, they were the billionaires of their time. And they were funding all of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda Prabhu's activities. The whole Sankirtan movement. Not that they needed it, but the point is the Lord acts through his devotees. So they were also devotees, and Raghunatha Das Goswami was in the home of devotees. Yet, that was not enough. And we will see why. It was not enough to be a devotee at home, but he wanted to reach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he's unable to reach Lord Chaitanya. They won't let him go. But one time, Nityananda Prabhu comes to the nearby town of Panihati. And there, he's come with all of his associates. And Raghunatha Das Goswami this time goes through the front door, so to say, and goes directly to his parents and says, Nityananda Prabhu has come and he's so close by. I must go and see him and you have to let me go. And so his parents relent. They agree and they send Raghunatha Das Goswami, of course, with 10 men on his side so he cannot run away. And they allow him to go and see Lord Nityananda. And there he meets Lord Nityananda. When Lord Nityananda sees him from a distance, he tells him, you are just like a thief. I shall punish you. Prabhupada explains this, that why he's saying this, again, to teach the world. Raghunatha Das Goswami was a rich man. So Lord Nityananda was saying, you are a thief. Why? Because anyone in this world who has wealth and does not engage it in the service of the Lord, that person is a thief, because the wealth belongs to Krishna. So we may think, I'm a very honest person, never stole anything, and very successful. But if we have wealth that is not being used in the service of the Lord, we are a dishonest person, we are a thief. And Raghunatha Das Goswami is very pleased to hear this. And then Lord Nityananda gives him an instruction. He says, make a festival and feed all my associates yogurt and chipped rice. So then Raghunatha Das Goswami arranges for this, and he arranges for a huge festival with so many preparations and different types of chipped rice with yogurt, with butter, with bananas. And there's this great festivity that takes place. And the ecstasy of this prasadam and the distribution is so great that although Lord Chaitanya is not present on the scene, he cannot resist coming to the scene. And so mystically, Lord Chaitanya also appears. And Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, they start to feed each other this chipped rice. And unknown to most of the people, there are only a few who were very fortunate could see that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were performing these pastimes. And this is actually a painting from that location. It's a very historic painting of this pastime. And so Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda went to the pot of every devotee. So they distributed this chipped rice. This is a very famous festival in pots. And Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda would go to every pot, take a morsel and shove it in. So Lord Chaitanya would shove it in Nityananda Prabhu's mouth, and Nityananda Prabhu would shove it into Lord Chaitanya's mouth. And in this way, they performed so many pastimes. Raghunatha Das Goswami arranged this festival so nicely, so with so much heart. With his heart and soul, he arranged this festival. And what was the result? Lord Nityananda became very, very pleased with him. And this shows the effect of devotional service. If we get some service, if we take up some service for the Lord, if we do it nicely, it's not just that, the devotees around us appreciate it, but doing one service nicely, a festival or something like this, the power of it is so great that Lord Nityananda himself, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, may appear there and they may be very satisfied with our devotional service. So Lord Nityananda became very, very pleased. And as a result of that, he bestowed his mercy on Raghunatha Das Goswami. This is another painting of that festival, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda dancing in this way. After the festival was over, then Raghunatha Das Goswami goes to Lord Nityananda. And he never directly actually spoke to Nityananda Prabhu or Lord Chaitanya, except for very rare occasions, because he always felt incompetent to speak to them directly. So he would speak through a devotee. He would, tell his desire to a devotee, and that devotee would speak to the Lord. So Raghunatha Das Goswami says, I am the lowest of men, the most sinful, fallen and condemned. Nonetheless, I desire to attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Every time I try to go away and give up my home relationships, my father and mother unfortunately kept me bound. Vamana haya chen yena chandak dhari bare chaya aneka yatna khainu tate khabu siddhanaya. Like a dwarf who wants to catch the moon, I have tried my best many times, but I have never been successful. So beautiful. No one can attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without your mercy. This is to Lord Nityananda. But if you are merciful, even the lowest of men can attain shelter at his lotus feet. Although I am unfit and greatly afraid to submit this plea, I nevertheless request you, sir, to be especially merciful toward me by granting me shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Placing your feet on my head, give me the benediction that I may achieve the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without difficulty. I pray for this benediction. So this is a lot of text here. I'll skip this. But Lord Nityananda, after he hears this appeal from Raghunatha Das Goswami, he becomes very, very pleased, very happy. And then he tells all the devotees who are present there, he says, Raghunath Das's standard of material happiness is equal to that of Indra, the king of heaven. Yet, he's not attached to it, right? Because of the mercy bestowed upon him by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunath Das, although situated in such material happiness, does not like it at all. Therefore, let every one of you be merciful toward him and give him the benediction that he may very soon attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then this verse, which is one of my favorites, he says, one who experiences the fragrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna does not value even the standard of happiness available in Brahmaloka, the topmost planet, and what to speak of heavenly happiness. So, in this material world, we feel that we have so many problems. But if we have this consciousness, then how could we have any problem? How could there be any problem in this material world for us? Because there's no happiness that we desire or that we feel that we are lacking, because the only happiness is the fragrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And a very wonderful example of this is, and Lord Nityananda quotes this verse in this section, is Bharat Maharaj in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That although Bharat Maharaj was the king of the entire world, he was the emperor of the entire world, due to his attraction to the Lord, at a certain point in his life, he gives it all up. And he gives it up, the Bhagavatam describes, as one gives up stool after evacuating. It's not hard to do, right? After we go to the toilet, is it an existential question? Should I flush the toilet or not? Do we have to ask ourselves this question? Should I really flush this toilet? I mean, it's my stool. Maybe I should keep it. Maybe I shouldn't. Has anyone had this trouble? No one does. It's something that it's like easy decision. So again, their renunciation was very natural. It also shows that how great it is, but it's also natural. Like they're not forcing themselves to give up things. Rather, like the Gita says, because they have experienced the higher taste. Chapter 4, right? Many of you are preparing for this exam. Because they've experienced the higher taste, it's very easy to give up the lower taste. So because they have experienced the fragrance of the lotus feet of Krishna, they don't have any difficulty in giving up all the material pleasures that they have, all the material so-called pleasures that they have. Such was the greatness of His Majesty. In the same way, Raghunath Das Goswami was just like Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj was such a great king that the entire India is named after him. That's why it's called Bharat Varsha. It's not named after Krishna, it's not named after Arjuna, it's not named after, of course, not to say that the point is that the Lord wants to glorify his devotees. And Bharat Maharaj, although we know at the very end he had some attachment, but he was such a great devotee of the Lord that the name of the land became Bharat Varsha. So Lord Nityananda says this, and then he tells Raghunath Das Goswami. So first he speaks to the devotees and glorifies Raghunath Das Goswami and shows them how wonderful Krishna is, that such a rich person's son is attached to Lord Chaitanya like this. And then he speaks to Raghunath Das Goswami. My dear Raghunath Das, he said, since you arranged the feast on the bank of the Ganges, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here just to show you his mercy. So Nityananda Prabhu makes it very clear. He says, since you arranged the feast on the bank of the Ganges, showing the power of serving the devotees, serving the Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here just to show you his mercy. So mercy is something that is earned. Of course, there's causeless mercy. And there's nothing that we can do to get that mercy ultimately. Ultimately, it is causeless. It is the Lord's desire, the Lord's mercy itself that gives us mercy. But mercy also needs to be earned. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaura Hari, came here personally to deliver you. Now rest assured that all the impediments meant for your bondage are gone. So very wonderful point that how the Lord is the one who removes the impediments to our surrendering to the Lord. The devotee does not remove the impediments. The devotee prays to the Lord to remove them. But it is the Lord that clarifies the path that the devotee should follow. The devotee doesn't go and burn down his house. That's not the devotee does not try to play God. Does not go down, burn his house and say, I'm renounced. Rather, if the house burns down, the devotee understands that just see, Krishna has made an arrangement so that I can become renounced. And this was Srila Prabhupada's mood very much when he spoke about his own life. Prabhupada was a very successful businessman. He was a pharmacist. And at a certain point, he's doing so well, and all of a sudden, everything goes wrong, and his business becomes bankrupt. He loses all of it. He loses his business, he loses his customers, even his family members, they become cross towards him. For no reason. He was the same super intelligent person that he was always. And so therefore then he understands that, oh, this is the desire of the Lord. The Lord has clarified this path for me. Now all I have to do is walk on that path that he's made. And Prabhupada says that until that time, he knew that his Guru Maharaj had given him this instruction to go to the West, which means leaving his family, and preach Krishna consciousness. And he said he would have nightmares thinking how he would do this. And he was unwilling to do it. But because he was praying to the Lord that please give me the strength to do it, please give me the path to do it. When the Lord made that path, and when he made that path, then Srila Prabhupada walked on it and fulfilled it. So now Nityananda Prabhu is telling Lord Chaitanya that now the Lord has clarified that path. Due to your service, Krishna has given you now the privilege to join him. And therefore, all of your impediments are gone. But here also there's another message that's even more important. That when does Raghunatha Das Goswami get Lord Chaitanya's mercy? He gets that mercy by performing service to Lord Nityananda. He gets that mercy after Lord Nityananda is pleased with him. And who does Lord Nityananda Prabhu represent? He represents the spiritual master. So this comes to show the importance of accepting the spiritual master. That we can get the mercy of the Lord only after we serve and please and accept the spiritual master. He tries so many times and runs away from home to meet Lord Chaitanya. He's not able to do it. The Lord does not allow it through his parents. They are instruments of the Lord's desire. The Lord does not allow it. But when he has a desire to go and see Lord Nityananda, he's able to do that. And then when he pleases Lord Nityananda and Lord Nityananda becomes happy, then immediately he gets Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So through this narration, there's also a very great lesson that we get the mercy of Krishna by getting the mercy of the devotees. And getting the mercy of the devotees means also getting the mercy of our spiritual master. Or I should say primarily, centrally, it means getting the mercy of the Guru. So we all must, as Krishna says in the Gita, tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeshanti tad jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Krishna tells us that we have to approach a spiritual master. We have to render service. We have to inquire submissively. And then we get his mercy. And then Lord Chaitanya tells all the devotees, after he has given blessings to Raghunatha Das Goswami, he tells, that's not enough. He says, being assured of all this, return to your home. Very soon, without impediments, you will attain shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Nityananda had Raghunath Das blessed by all the devotees, and Raghunath Das offered his respects to their lotus feet. So after that, Lord Nityananda had all the devotees bless Raghunath Das Goswami one by one, because he knew that it's only by their blessings that Raghunath Das would get this great mercy, this great benediction of having Lord Chaitanya's direct association. And this is a theme in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the theme of the power of blessings. That blessings of the devotees are very, very powerful. And we need to seek, Prabhupada says, the heartfelt blessings of the devotees. So there's one thing to go and say, Prabhuji, please bless me. Prabhuji, please bless me. Or like people do in Indian temples, they go and touch the feet of all the sadhus to get their blessings. And that is very good. But deep blessings, or you could say heartfelt blessings, come when the devotee is actually pleased with us. We do something for the devotee that pleases the devotee, and they truly feel, this is a nice devotee. And when they feel that, then that blessings is more powerful than any number of the regular blessings. So we should look forward to opportunities like this, where we can please a great devotee of the Lord and get that blessing. Or we can please any devotee of the Lord. We can help a devotee in need or some difficulty, and in this way get their heartfelt blessings. And in this way, our you could say heap of devotional credit continues to increase, and one day the Lord directly appears before us. So the power of blessings is very important. And Raghunath Das Goswami received all the blessings of the devotees, and then he was able to see the Lord. So then very soon, finally, so Raghunath Das Goswami then goes back home, and then he finds, as predicted by Lord Nityananda, he finds a very amazing opportunity to escape from home. And when he finds that opportunity, he travels day and night. He does not eat or sleep because his mind is so fixed on the Lord. He would, eat some leaves or something, and gradually he covered the distance, and finally he reaches Jagannath Puri. And there, Raghunath Das Goswami, he meets Lord Chaitanya at Jagannath Puri. And there, when Lord Chaitanya meets him, he tells Raghunath Das Goswami, Prabhu kahe Krishna kripa balishta sabahaite tomare khadila vishaya vishta gharta haite. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the mercy of Lord Krishna is stronger than anything else. Therefore the Lord has delivered you from the ditch of materialistic life, which is like a hole in which one passes stool. My dear Raghunath Das, your father and his elder brother are just like worms in stool in the ditch of material enjoyment. For the great disease of the prison, for the great disease of the poison of material enjoyment is what they consider happiness. So then Lord Chaitanya tells Raghunath Das Goswami sort of some very strong words about material enjoyment, which we can understand. But then he also says some strong words regarding his father and elder brother who are stopping him from coming to the Lord. And this is very interesting, and this is the last point that I'll make, and then we'll end. I know time is up. Is that, remember, his father and his uncle were performing service to the devotees. They were funding all their programs and all these things. But here we see that Lord Chaitanya is not pleased with them. Although they were devotees and they're supporting his mission, he was not pleased with them. Why do you think that's the case? He was not pleased with them because although they were devotees and they knew the greatness of Lord Chaitanya, they were stopping Raghunatha Das Goswami from coming to Lord Chaitanya. And that was not correct on their part. When someone wants to reach the Lord, we should not stop them. We should encourage them on that path. And they were thinking of their own benefit, that this is my only son. Let me keep them home. Let me keep him home. Let me, who will take care of us in our old age? And, that's a genuine concern. And that should be a concern of every son or daughter. Who will take care of my parents? But when it comes to the Lord, then we cannot think in that way. When it comes to Krishna, then we cannot think in that way. So that was one reason why Lord Chaitanya was not pleased with them. A second reason why he was not pleased is because although they were devotees of the Lord and they were donating great amounts, but Prabhupada explains that they were devotees who were devoted to the Lord because they wanted, as a result of that devotion, to improve their material situation. Not to give up material life and accept spiritual life, or not to become better devotees, but rather as a result of being a devotee, I will still be materially more happy. Materially, I'll become a bigger man. And this is not real devotion. Even if we are performing giving great donations or performing great service externally, if in our mind we're thinking, materially I can profit from this, then that's still not pure devotion. And so he wanted to show Raghunatha Das Goswami, not show, but he was telling Raghunatha Das Goswami that they are devotees, which he says later on here. I'll just read the translation here. Although your father and uncle are charitable to Brahmanas and greatly help them, they are nevertheless not pure Vaishnavas. However, they are almost like Vaishnavas. That although they are helping, Prabhupada explains, and they are, charitable, but their ultimate intention is that they want to be materially prosperous as a result of that service. Or even if not as a result of that, this is what they ultimately want. Their desire in their heart is to become materially very successful. But a real devotee's desire is that although they may be materially successful, their desire is that how can I become a pure devotee of the Lord? Not that the devotion should increase my material prestige. So the point being that Krishna, he doesn't see what we give. Krishna sees what we keep. What is it that we have kept? That is what we have not given. So in that way, he does see what we give, but he sees by what we keep. Right? So if, again, going back to our billionaire example, if Elon Musk, if he gives a donation of $100,000, his donation may still not be as much as if, one of us gives $100 check to Krishna. If, our salary is, $1,000 a month. Because why? Krishna will appreciate the person who gives $100 more. Why? Because Krishna is seeing what we're keeping. This person only has $1,000, and from that 1,000, they gave Krishna 100. This person had 200 billion, and they gave 100,000. It's not even 0.01% of their wealth. So Krishna is smarter than we are, and Krishna looks at what we keep. So yes, they were giving charitably to the Brahmanas, but they were also multi-millionaires. They were not interested in giving, in accepting spiritual life and giving up material enjoyment. And Raghunatha Das Goswami, although he could have, stayed in that comfortable position, Raghunatha Das Goswami was interested in giving up everything and keeping nothing for himself, everything for the Lord. And that is what our mood should be. Everything for the Lord. All of my skills, all of my resources, all of my intelligence, everything for the Lord. Although like Raghunatha Das Goswami, we cannot give up everything externally, but our intention, our effort should be in that direction. That we cannot give it up, but we can engage whatever we have, our family, our home, our resources, our connections, our skills, all those things, we can engage it in Krishna's service. So I'll stop at this point. I'm sorry for going a little over time. I apologize. And we can have discussion.
Thank you, Prabhu. Beautiful class. Lot of interesting lessons and things to take away in our practical life. I'll just take few minutes to maybe a minute to make few announcements. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes,
Before
of
we go for
course.
the
Yes.
questions? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So devotees, maybe you can prepare for your questions, raise your hand or write it on the chat room. In the meantime, I'll just take a short moment to uh, do some few announcements here. Just give me 1 second. Um, so first thing is the programs what we do at ISKCON of Bergen. So like we do the Sunday program and we have the Wednesday Sangha program. The next Wednesday Sangha program is Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is coming up and on the same Zoom, April 14, 8:30 to 10. And this Wednesday program, we have been doing it even before the pandemic started. So it has been very popular program and with the pandemic, actually, it improved our reachability to the global preachers and really, really very, very helpful in getting the exposure from so many realized devotees. So don't miss this wonderful event coming up on Wednesday. And we also do the community building process through various programs. Like Thursday, we do the storytelling session for the kids, 8:30 to 9. And Bhakti Bridge program on Fridays, 7:30. You can be connected with any of the, we have like many Bhakti Bridge programs going on here, so you can join that. Sunday school for the kids. Those who want to enroll their kids, please contact us. And we do the midday weekdays Bhagavad Gita reading every day, 15 minutes, 12 to 12:15. Um, and then we also do the chanting every day, 6 to 8 in the morning. And we also invite devotees who wants to lead the chanting for half an hour session. Those who are interested, please feel free to reach us. We can put you in the rotation for the next month. That's about the programs. And with that, I'll go back to the uh, question answers. And before that, I have a beautiful, beautiful announcement here. And very happy to announce that one of the congregation members, Anand Joshi and Sulva Joshi Mataji and Prabhuji got initiated. Um, by His Holiness Kadam Kanan Maharaj. And I would like to request all the devotees that please congratulate them, call them when your time allows. And this is a beautiful opportunity. And actually, it's a very, what should I say? It's a very happy moment for us to see another devotee advancing towards the spiritual progress. And in fact, I take the opportunity to get the blessings from the devotees. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So,
Gopal, you want to announce their names?
yes, the names. The most important thing, I missed that. Sorry. In the excitement, I did not announce that. Amala Purana Das. That's the Prabhuji's name. Mataji's name is Sanjani, Sanjali Devi Blessing. And beautiful names. I actually attended the ceremony, and Maharaj was so happy in these names, and so exciting to bless them with these beautiful names. Um, thank you, Prabhu, and thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for all blessings. Thank you so much, everybody. So because of all of you, we are here. I've been telling this since since we joined this con. So I'm telling, because of you all, we are here today. All this is possible. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible. I went through so many hurdles, but all hurdle passed pro because all of your blessings. Thank you. Keep
Thank you.
shining the blessings.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Had it
Krishna.
been had it been a temple program, then we would have been like meeting there, and then a lot of celebration would be there. But that's okay. All right. So
Yeah, everything is pending. We'll do it. We have to.
certainly, yeah. Thank you. All right. So let's go back to the question answers. Let me see the devotees. There are a few raised hands, as well as I think in the chat room also a few things going on. Okay, so first question coming from Abhay Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the wonderful class. I mean, it was so insightful. So Prabhuji, I had a question regarding when you were referring to based on what we can give up based on our own capacity. So let's say even after acquiring, when everything belongs to Krishna, if Krishna is giving something to us, it is for us to give back. So let's say we are trying to give a certain donation, and we don't do it regarding saying, oh, this is yours, Krishna, but rather saying, oh, this is mine, I'm giving it to you. So if we go with that mindset and we continue with going with that mindset, how can that harm our spiritual life, and how can we get rid of that mindset so we can say that this is for you, Krishna, this is yours anyways, I'm just returning it to you. So how can we develop that mindset? So that's my question.
That's a nice question. Thank you. So, our philosophy is achintya bheda bheda, which is kind of we believe in contradictions, paradoxes, oneness and differences. So on one hand, that Lakshmi is Krishna's because everything comes from Krishna. But on the other hand, that money, that Lakshmi is yours because it's by Krishna's arrangement, it's been put under your care and you have control over those funds at that time. So it is yours. So Krishna is pleased when we take something that belongs to us and we give it to Krishna. Just like Prabhupada gives the example of a child and the parent. The small child buys everything with the father's money, the mother's money, the parents' money. So, but the child is given some money by the father. He goes to the store and he buys, a candy. And then if he comes back home and gives that candy to his father, father feels, oh, so happy he's given it to me. Because the child has the option of just eating it himself or giving it to the father. You see, that option, that freedom is there with the child, even though the candy from the start begins, to begin with, belongs to the child. It's a fact, it belongs to the father, sorry, to begin with. But still, because the child has control over it at that time, the child can eat it himself or give it to the father. So the highest realization is, like you're saying, that the fact that everything belongs to the Lord, it's already the Lord's. What can I give? Everything that I have, I'm going to give, because everything is already the Lord's. I can't really give anything. That is the highest realization, but that's really not much different from the realization that I should give to the Lord, because the practical reality is that decision is in our hands. So Krishna is looking at our sacrifice again. Again, Krishna is not looking at the money, Krishna is looking at the sacrifice. A person who has $100 and gives 50 has given a greater sacrifice for the Lord than the person who has $1,000 and they're giving $200. Right? So Krishna sees what we keep, not what we give.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That was a very wonderful answer. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abhay. And Penny Pickham, have a question? Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I always really enjoy hearing you tell pastimes, so thank you. Anyways, so this is a point that comes up frequently. I know we've talked about it in our Bhakti Shastri classes, but you saying that the devotee does not remove the impediments, but the Lord does. I feel like sometimes it could be easy to fall into a mindset of just falling back and letting Krishna take care of it then, so we could recognize, a devotee might recognize that there's a problem, but then not put in the effort to fix it themselves and to see how they can work to fix that, not only for themselves, but also for Krishna. And if we want to develop a mood, if we want to try to develop a mood like Raghunatha Das, then how do we do this so that we're not expecting anything in return from Krishna, that we're actually, offering our services sincerely? If that makes sense.
That's a very good question. Very good point. So, even in Krishna's pastimes in the spiritual world, we see Mother Yashoda, she has to stop the milk from boiling over in the pot. She is continuously anxious for Krishna and trying to remove impediments in Krishna's, you could say, pleasure. Although there would be no impediment, but she has that mood. So you bring up a very good point, that there's both aspects to it. Some impediments that are within our power to remove, the devotee will remove them out of the devotee's desire to serve the Lord. The devotee will, maybe throw out the television from the house, a very practical thing, to remove this impediment that wastes our time. Well, now it's not so much television, people are on the internet all the time. So maybe, there's something, so we make those efforts. But certain impediments that we cannot remove, those the devotee waits for Krishna to remove them. So in the case of Raghunatha Das Goswami, in the culture that it was at that time, even if you were over 18, it didn't mean you could, just walk off from home and there was, a court system there. No, his parents were clearly in control. And if they didn't let him go, he could not go because the, workers were following the parents. So therefore, it was an impediment that he could not remove without, you could say, becoming physical, and maybe, you know, without doing something that would be very against his nature, or not feasible really. And so for those things, he waited for the Lord to do that. So it's similar in our case, like, you know, major things like, you know, taking the renounced order of life. In the case of Srila Prabhupada, you have family, you have children. When should you leave them? When should you become renounced? Maybe a question a devotee has later in life. So Krishna makes an arrangement to make it clear when's the right time. Similarly, sometimes a change in service or a change in job or something like this. Krishna will give a signal, and the devotee says, okay, now Krishna's given a signal, now I'll act on it. So we see both things, and the only way we can really know is by becoming Krishna conscious ourselves. Like, for example, in the case of Srila Prabhupada, right, he translates the entire Bhagavad Gita, and then it gets lost. His, you know, family members, you know, sell it for something, and then Prabhupada knows that he's supposed to write it all over again. Someone else might say, oh, that was a sign from Krishna that actually I'm not supposed to do this service, and I shouldn't write a translation of the Gita. But Prabhupada somehow knew that, no, this means that I should write it all over again. So how did he know? How does a devotee know? Well, we were reading in the Gita how Prabhupada, Krishna says that through the, what was that verse we just, is that through the practice of Bhakti Yoga, of course there's so many verses, but I'm thinking of one specific passage where Prabhupada says that actually it is once a person becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, once a person becomes very purified in heart, then Krishna reveals everything very easily in their heart. So the knowledge of which decision to take depends upon our purification of heart.
Thank you. Your answer was very clear as well. Like you said, Krishna would make it clear. That was very clear and comforting. So thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions around? If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself. And in the meantime, I will, Prabhu, I have one question. Yes. In the class, you mentioned that mercy, there's ahetuki kripa, right? So, and then there is a mercy can be earned as well. So the fact that mercy can be earned is something, can you please elaborate on that, how we understand that?
Yes. So we have this very wonderful Leela of Damodar Leela, right? Yashoda and Krishna, and Mother Yashoda ties Krishna up with rope, right? This is why she's celebrated as one of the greatest devotees of the Lord, because she is able to tie up Krishna. Now, before she's able to tie him up, the rope is always 2 fingers too short. 2 fingers too short. So who knows? Why is it 2 fingers too short? What do the 2 fingers represent?
The effort from our side.
Okay,
and,
that's 1 finger.
Mercy.
And mercy. Yes, mercy is 2nd finger. So they both go together until Mother Yashoda was not perspiring and almost fainting. And until out of her determination, she hadn't gotten every single rope in the house, which was a lot of rope because they had 1,000,000 cows. So you had a lot of rope if you had 1,000,000 cows. Until she found every single rope in the house, Krishna did not agree to give his mercy and allow Mother Yashoda to tie her up. So mercy is causeless still, because even after getting all the rope, still she did not do anything to deserve tying God up. So in spite of our effort, we will never deserve to reach God, because God is so great that no matter how much we do, we're still less. But the effort invokes the mercy of the Lord. When she made the effort, then Krishna was willing, okay, take my mercy. Then there's no shortage. And to this, Prabhupada gives the example of the sparrow and Garuda, right? That how the sparrow, it's impossible for the sparrow to empty out the ocean. But it's only when the sparrow tries that Garuda comes and actually, is willing to empty it out for him. It's only after the sparrow tries. So it's not the effort itself that gives us the mercy, but the effort earns us the mercy, or you could say invokes the mercy of the Lord.
That's a wonderful explanation. I really feel very comforting with this. And on the same text, we also hear another context that getting into the devotional services is also possible only through the mercy. It cannot be the karmic activity. It has to be, it is not a result of the karmic activity. It is the result of mercy, whether it's ahetuki kripa or is it like little effort, as you explained that sparrow's example. So in that,
yes,
yeah,
so let
in
me
that,
this, Prabhu, that so many people met Srila Prabhupada. Thousands of people did, but only a few became his disciples. So Prabhupada was merciful to all of them. Prabhupada was like the rain cloud. He was showering his mercy to every person he met. But why did only a few take it up? Because in addition to his mercy, there is that aspect of their own desire, their own willingness and effort to accept it. So except for very rare circumstances, it's never a one-way deal. In Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, we find that Lord Chaitanya would embrace someone and that person would be starting to, jump in love of God. And they could do that, Lord Chaitanya could do that because he is God. But Prabhupada himself said, we are not Lord Chaitanya. I am not Lord Chaitanya. He said, I can give my mercy, but you have to also make the effort to accept it. So rare circumstances where it's only one way, and you're right, causeless mercy can be truly causeless, where it does not require any effort on our part. Krishna is not bound by our effort. He can liberate anyone he wills, like Lord Chaitanya did sometimes. But generally speaking, as far as we are concerned, there's always an aspect of effort that has to be there, and that Prabhupada himself, his pastimes, showed.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's really, really wonderful answer. And I'll pass on the bucks to more devotees around here. Madhava Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Gopal, Prabhu. Thank you very much for the wonderful class. Prabhuji, you made a point in your lecture that for Raghunatha Das Goswami, it was not enough for him to just stay at home as a devotee. Of course, there's many things that services you can do at home as a devotee, but he also wanted to do many things which it bounded him. He could not necessarily do at home, which is why he kept on trying to go to Mahaprabhu. So sometimes similarly here, the feeling may come up that we want to do certain services, and for that requires not staying home or early false renunciation. And so that's one part of it. And the other part of it, it's like, I can't do that because I know I'm probably going to come crawling back, but the desire is still there. And like, the desire is just there. It's holding, you hold on to that desire. So what do you do in that situation? If you could shed some light on that.
Very nice question, Madhava Prabhu. So I'll be very painfully honest with you. I'm a very lazy boy. I'm very lazy. I don't like to exercise, and my tummy shows it. And no matter how much I do on my own, right? I'll make a schedule. I'm going to do, I don't know whether you call it burpees, right? 50 burpees a day, and every single day I'll do it. No, on the fourth day, it'll be gone. It'll be lost. But I've noticed that if I join if I have a teacher, if I join some group, then I can do it without fail. Because of that relationship and that atmosphere and that association something that is clearly impossible for me becomes possible. The same thing that I could never do just by joining a group, now every single day I can do it. So, and this is again an example. So I'm just giving an analogy, so to say. So the same thing is about our spiritual life. It depends upon what are our goals in spiritual life. If a person wants to pursue the path of renunciation, which is a full-time life of dedication to the service of the Lord, it is virtually impossible to do it at home. One cannot be at home and serve Krishna full-time and be like, a sannyasi and just, their whole life is giving Krishna, preaching Krishna, or a brahmachari, doing that. One can serve the Lord, but that level of intensity or dedication will not be there. That doesn't mean we cannot be a pure devotee of the Lord. Most of Lord Chaitanya's associates were actually householders, and they were pure devotees. But the contribution that we can make will be more if we're full-time. It's natural. If I don't have, a baby at home that's crying and I have to care for, or, money to earn, house to fix or whatnot, so many things in household life, there's just no time, right? I didn't understand this before I got married. I was like, why do people have trouble finishing their 16 rounds? It's so easy. It's so easy. And then once I got married, it got a little more difficult. And once I had kids, then I was like, oh, no wonder these householders would come to my Guru Maharaj and ask him, Maharaj, how do I find time to chant my rounds? It's like, no wonder they would say that, because now it's really difficult. It's like, it's the biggest, if I do that, I know, oh, wow, I did it. So the reality is that there is less time to serve the Lord directly, to serve others directly, so to say. Not exactly serve the Lord, because serving your children is also serving the Lord, but to sacrifice one's life to spread Krishna consciousness is more difficult as a householder. And Krishna is pleased when we make that sacrifice. It is a greater sacrifice, generally speaking. Generally speaking, it is a greater sacrifice to give up that very great pleasure in this material world, which is the family pleasure, and to serve Krishna full time. And there's a special blessing. Like, I believe it's in the Gita, no, it's in the Bhagavatam. It says, Krishna says that the brahmacharis, they reside in my heart. So the brahmacharis, why the heart? Because they perform they give up everything for Krishna. And householder life also has a lot of austerities, but still, it is more difficult to lead that life. It is just a more austere life.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mother, for engaging in this nice conversation. Alka Mataji, want to go ahead with your question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Wonderful lecture. And I totally agree that, you pointed out a very valid point, that if all the millionaires or the billionaires of the world donated even fraction of their wealth, there would be no poverty in the world. What to speak of ISKCON. But then, I was just thinking that people who are wealthy may not be devotees, and when they donate, they may expect something in return. Just to illustrate, Elon Musk might tell us that, why don't you advertise Tesla at every ISKCON event? So I was just thinking that how would that affect our movement? And again, it's a side question, Prabhuji, it was coming again and again. I'm sorry if it's taking us away from the issue, but if you could just talk a little bit about it. Hare Krishna.
No, that's a nice question. We were discussing this topic. If a person is giving a donation but wants something in return, how will that affect our Krishna conscious activities? Right. This is your question. Well, see, Lord Chaitanya, he tells that He tells Raghunatha Das Goswami that your parents are not real devotees, but they're almost devotees because they want to donate, but they still want material happiness in exchange for that service. So the point being that that is still good for them. But Lord Chaitanya is saying that that's not the highest thing. And your specific example, your example is a specific example of this general point, that doing devotional service and wanting material prosperity or just, material, wanting the material in exchange for it or as a result of it is something that is not pure devotional service. It's not something that is fully satisfying to Krishna. So that's still good for us. It helps us advance. And certainly Raghunatha Das Goswami's parents were making a lot of advancement in spiritual life. Therefore, they had a son like Raghunatha Das Goswami, right? So any service to the Lord never goes in vain. And Krishna is eternally grateful for it because Krishna will give us a blessing due to even the slightest desire of wanting to serve him, even if it's mixed with material motivations. But that doesn't change the goal. The goal is that our devotion has to be fully purified. Right? So we may be wherever we are, but we should be clear about the goal. The goal is pure devotion, which is anya bilashita shunyam, no ulterior motive. So Elon Musk saying this is him donating with an ulterior motive, with another motive. But pure bhakti is anya vilashita shunyam, no ulterior motive, just for Krishna. There's no motivation.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for once again reminding us of that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Alka Prabhu, we have few minutes. Do you have few minutes?
Yes.
Jayadupti Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, I have Hare Krishna. I have follow-up question. Devotional service we should not do for material benefit, right? So I want to know, if someone is doing devotional service, and we are like, I will say myself, I should not judge if someone is doing devotional service, are they doing for material benefit, prestige, or truly they are doing for self-realization, for renunciation. How can we identify that, even for myself? Yeah.
Yes. This is a very nice question, Mataji. Actually, sorry, in general, devotees here, you might notice that I was a little distracted just a few minutes because for some reason on the street there's some noise, which is not normal. Something happening in the neighborhood, someone shouting or something. So I was just concerned there. Got disturbed. So this is a very nice question. Your question is, how can we tell the difference if we're doing devotional service for material things or we're doing it for the purification of our heart? Is that your question, or did I miss something? That's it. Okay. So the way that we can test this is actually the very first verse that I showed, which I know it was a lot. I think I probably shared a bit too many verses. It's hard to remember, but I'll just share it very quickly here, and because it really is the answer to your question. Here. Oh, sorry. This one here. Okay, so here Prabhupada says that the way we know that a person's devotion is pure is not by some artificial, how nice of a class can they give or how nice of a kirtan can they lead. But it's true, it's real, it's devotional service if it continues in spite of material circumstances. If it continues in spite of the situation changing, or it continues over time. So in the Bhagavatam, there's this very beautiful verse that defined here. Prabhupada says, because their devotional service is free from material desires, which is what you're asking, how do you know? So if it is free from material desires, it is unimpeded. It is unimpeded. It will be, it won't stop. So this is called Tailadhara, that pure devotion is like the flow of oil. When oil is poured, it pours very smoothly and it doesn't break. When you pour water, it's like pop, 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 right? But when you pour oil, it's very smooth and it's constant. And it doesn't end. So there's this beautiful verse in the Bhagavatam, Tattenu kampam shushamikshimano, where Lord Brahma tells Krishna that those who continue their devotional service throughout their life, at the end of their life, liberation becomes their rightful claim. And he adds one more thing, that those who continue their devotional service in spite of material difficulties, in spite of material problems, they become pure. So in this, their spiritual world becomes their rightful claim. So Prabhupada says that we cannot, there's no way to feign pure devotion to Krishna. If it's not real devotion, Prabhupada says after a few weeks it'll go away. That person will come, they'll do the service, after a few weeks it'll go away. But if the person is still sticking around, that means their devotion is of a pure intent. Because that's the only way we can stick around. Because ultimately there will be some problem, some difficulty in our service. We will not be respected for it. We will not be appreciated for it. We will not be recognized for it. But if we're still continuing, that means we're doing it for Krishna. So it's the test is actually very tangible. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very nice.
Thank you. Yes. The process of devotional service is such that we just have to keep on doing it. Because if our motivation is not completely pure, Krishna will put something in the way that either we have to purify our motivation or we have to give up the devotional service. It has to be one or the two. And so if we don't give it up, that means we have to purify our motivation. Of course, this doesn't mean that we don't try. We ourselves also have to conscientiously try to speak with our mind and purify our motivations. This doesn't also necessarily mean that just because someone's around, they're a pure devotee. But it does say a lot. And you see that devotees who have been in the movement 30, 40 years, they are experiencing the fruits of their bhakti. Because Prabhupada said this movement is like a bag of rocks that are all with sharp edges. And if you stay inside this movement, eventually those rocks become very soft and our heart softens.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. That was a beautiful, beautiful answer. Like, you just hit the nail in the head. Really, really, very nice. Thank you so much for wonderful explanation. I'm just trying now. I'll replay the video probably. You did a very nice answer and so many things to learn from that. It just reminds me of the rivers of wisdom we are reading, determination topic nowadays in Bhakti Briksha program. And in that, this question came up and so nicely associated. Thank you so much. Shraddha Mataji has a question. Please go ahead, Mataji. And let's try to keep it short, Mataji. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. So the topic that we are discussing, doing charity, and it should be from our side also, there should not be any motivation. But most of the times, or I should say almost every time, when we read Ekadashi stories or there are Ashtakams, they always end with Falashruti.
Mm.
And very rarely I've heard, especially in Ekadasi stories, that okay, you will get uh, prema for God, or it's like you'll get the benefit of 10 million
Yes.
Ashwamedha Yajna
Yes.
and things like that.
Yes.
So how shall we understand that? Should we say that this is just to get people started with that thing, at least come into the process, and by sticking to the process, ultimately those desires will go away? Because we know our acharyas also say that at least get started with the path of bhakti, like we saw in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. He had some worldly intentions, but the moment he tasted bhakti, it all went away. So do we think it like that, or how should we perceive that?
Yes, I think that is the correct way to approach it, because I think it's in the Bhagavatam itself, or it's somewhere in Prabhupada's books, that those Falashrutis are there to attract. They have no other purpose other than to attract the minds of those who are not fully pure devotees, who are not complete pure devotees. Because the devotee does not do it for the phala. The devotee does it for the pleasure of the Lord. Also, they show the power of the process. You know, they increase our faith. Look how potent this is. This is a true story. There's a section in the Prithu Maharaj where the chapter on Prithu Maharaj is very wonderful. Prithu Maharaj in the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam. And at the end, it says that anyone who reads this chapter will get a child. They'll get a son. And this is because Prithu Maharaj was a great king and great devotee of the Lord, Satyavesha Avatar, actually incarnation of the Lord in that way, and gives such deep instructions in bhakti, devotional life. And so one lady, she came to the temple and she went to the priest, which was one of the devotees. And so she asked, I want to have a child. We're having difficulty. What should we do? So now we as ISKCON devotees, we don't get into this stuff, right? It's not, we don't do bhakti for this stuff. But she was like, look, I come to the temple. I'm asking you, what can I do to get a child? And I want a child. So I told her that you can read this section of the Bhagavatam, the section on Prithu Maharaj. And because at the end it says this. So she read it, and she read it very devoutly. And about 6 months later, she came and she was pregnant. And then she had a child, she had a son. So the fact is that she was very sincere, very eager to have a child. And that was her utmost prayer to the Lord. But then as a result of that, she read the Bhagavatam. And then, after some time, she was also chanting. She started chanting. And then somehow she did not continue as a devotee. Today, I don't think she's a practicing devotee. But she started chanting as a result of that reading of the Bhagavatam. Because Prabhupada's verses and purports are so powerful, the spiritual message. So this is exactly it, that someone went for it for the Falashruti, but in the process of pursuing that phala, they got the Bhagavatam spiritual message.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Shraddha Mataji. Thank you so much. Now I'll transfer control to Ramchand Prabhu. He has a question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and enlightening us. Very happy to see all the Bhakti Shastri students of yours asking questions. I was wondering, will you be giving any bonus points to them? Because a lot of them have still not asked any question yet. So,
well, the bonus points, Prabhu, are your blessings. So if you bless them, they'll do very well.
Well, if you don't give bonus points, I'll give them a bonus point for asking a question. I'll give them extra minutes to complete the exam, being their proctor next week. Anyway, thank you very much. It was a wonderful class and very nicely to the point answers. Just want to make that comment. I think Rukmati has a question.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, like, why is that the brahmacharis or grahastas or the sannyasis, like the austerity level of austerities is different, but the destination is the same? So how can they go back home, back to Godhead? And even for grahastas, there is a chance that they can also go back home, back to Godhead. So I'm just trying to understand.
Yes. So actually, I will answer your question, but that reminded me of a very amazing, very sweet story with Srila Prabhupada. One time a devotee, Prabhupada was going to so many temples and devotees and all these things. And one time there was a very sincere devotee, and he knew that Srila Prabhupada, he had been told that Srila Prabhupada wanted him to serve as the president of the temple. And, because he was such a sincere devotee, obviously that's why Prabhupada wanted him to be the president. And for that reason also, he didn't want to be the president. Because, when we're in, the fact is that in terms of material estimation, being a president or leader is something very nice, very wonderful. But from a spiritual point of view, and even from the material point of view, being a president is a lot of work. It's just a lot of work. I'm sure, Ramachandra Prabhu can confirm this. And it's a lot of headache. And a sincere devotee also doesn't want it. It's like, so why do it? So he didn't want to be. So he kept all of his arguments. Prabhupada was coming and he knew that Prabhupada would ask him this thing. So he prepared all of his arguments as to why he would not be a president. So when Prabhupada asked, this is my reason 1, reason 2, reason 3, and he had a family and he had small kids, and and he was struggling with his job, and so he had the whole thing listed. So then finally Prabhupada came, and he was called to Prabhupada's room, and he went, remember, all prepared. And so when he went there, then Prabhupada, he didn't know if Prabhupada would ask him or not, but this is, what was told. So when he goes there, then Prabhupada meets him and, greets him, and he greets, like this. And then Prabhupada says, I have one request for you. That, here it comes. Prabhupada's going to ask. He says, I have one request for you. Prabhupada said, I want you to take sannyas. And the man is shocked. He's like, I thought I was sincere, but not so sincere. And he said, Prabhupada, there's no way I can do this. I have small children. Prabhupada said, don't worry, Krishna will take care of them. And he says, no, Prabhupada, I cannot take sannyas. I just got married. My wife is young. He said, don't worry, it'll all work out. You take sannyas. And he says, Prabhupada, no matter, I cannot do this. Whatever else you say, I'll do it. You just tell me I cannot do this. Whatever else you say, I can do it. And Prabhupada said, okay, you become president. You be temple president. And then the man was completely floored. The devotee was, said, okay, this is Prabhupada's instruction. He had to accept it. So, and actually now the story does answer your question. So actually I was wrong. It clearly answers your question. That Prabhupada, this disciple devotee went to him and said, Prabhupada, I can do anything else. I cannot take sannyas. Prabhupada says, okay, be president. And then, then he accepted, and he did, and he was president, and he was a very good president. So the point being that this is why the sannyas ashram in our movement and in the history of Vedic culture is given so much respect. Because most of us can do everything, but we cannot be a celibate monk. We cannot take the life of a monk. And the hardest part of the life of the monk is not even the physical side, it is the mental side, the mental loneliness, the fact that you know that there's no one there in the world for you. Only God is there. Ultimately, when push comes to shove, people care for their families, they won't care for you. And therefore, it is a very big sacrifice. And as householders, myself, I'm a householder, we have to always remind ourselves of this. That sometimes like, well, I'm also a devotee, why should I give respect to the sannyasis? I'm also dedicated my life to Krishna. Why should I, respect the brahmacharis? But they have accepted a more difficult life. And at the same time, the sannyasis and the brahmacharis, if they start thinking, I'm better than this other person, I'm better than the grahasthas, then they will fall down out of pride. So that is, the renunciate can also fall because of pride. So they will fall if that's the problem. So they remind themselves that, no, I have to be humble and remember that just because I'm renounced doesn't mean I get Krishna. This is the first step, or this is an important step or a very powerful step. But ultimately, Krishna needs our pure devotion, our pure bhakti. And so therefore, that is thing. So now, your final part of the question was, well, why then do they get the same end? It's because ultimately the test is our devotion to the Lord, our pure devotion. So sannyas is an exhibition. Renunciation is an exhibition of that pure devotion. And most of the time, generally speaking, a person will have more devotion if they're willing to give up take that difficult step. Because otherwise, how can you sustain it? You have to love God in order to do that. But it's not the only test, you see. If someone else in household or life purifies their desires and develops pure love for Krishna, then they also reach the same destination as the sannyasi. But how often does it happen? Less often. How quickly will that progress be? Probably less quickly. So if you think about sannyas and grahastha ashram, there are two roads that lead to the same destination. Exact same destination. But one is the fast lane, the other is the slow lane. That's the only difference. One is the fast lane, the other is the slow lane. So if you're on the left lane, you're going to go there really fast, and you're more likely to reach. On the right lane, it's going to be slower, and there's a lot of exits. So it's very easy to get entangled, right? The story of Bharat Maharaj. He got entangled with the deer. We get entangled with our children, our wife. There's 100 ways we can fall down. And so we're more likely to take the wrong exit or to go more slowly. But if we're determined and if we lead our life according to the rules and regulations of Grihastha Ashram, slowly but surely, we could reach the destination. And on rare occasions, the sannyasi who's in the fast lane can get into an accident. And then that's called fall down, right? Then they have a detour and then they have to take the slow lane again and come back again. So an important part of this also is our nature. So some people are more suited for renounced life and they serve Krishna better in that ashram. Others are more suited for family life. So it has to do with our nature. At the same time, it also has to do with sacrifice and the speed of progress.